Hello and welcome to Talking Insights. My name is Gabby Kusters. I'll be your host for today, and we're going to be focusing on an exciting upcoming event, the Art and Science of Innovation in Chicago, happening from 16th of June until 18th of June. I'm very excited to have Adrian Terron with us. He is the head of corporate brand and marketing strategy at TATA Group, and he's going to be discussing his talk titled When Gen AI Meets Gen Z. How to explore how generative AI can help us understand Gen Z better. Of course, Adrian's going to be having this chit chat with us right now, but then he's also going to be presenting the same content over in Chicago next month. Join us as we dive into the intersection of technology and consumer insights at this must-see event. For now, welcome, Adrian. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, Gabby. So fantastic to be here. Thank you for having me. What a privilege and honor it is. I mean, Esomar is right up there for me because you guys really make us work hard and bring out the best in everyone across the globe. So this is a rare honor and privilege. Truly grateful to be here.
It's very exciting to have you. I know that we met for the first time last year in Singapore, where we also had the pleasure to interview you and your business partner. But today, I really want to touch base on what you're going to be talking on stage at our upcoming Chicago event. So without giving anything away, can you tell us what the delegate should be expecting from your session?
Oh, absolutely. Firstly, I want to establish the fact that you are more memorable than I am because the first time we met was actually in Amsterdam. But you remember me from Singapore after that, but I remember you from before that just because of your natural charisma and unforgettable smile. But looking at Chicago, the windy city, I think what we're going to see is a blowing up of some tremendous insight. We're at a very important intersection, Gabby. I mean, unless anyone's been living under a rock, they know that Gen AI is the white heat of technology. But strangely enough, it's not a new technology. It's just that, new companies have found a way of augmenting previous large language models and attaching a customer-friendly or a user-friendly interface like an app to it. The fact is people have been toying with and experimenting with large language models for very long before that. Just as we at the TATA Group did. I think the journey is about 18 months old, so it's been quite a while. And the first thing we sought to do is try to figure out how you harness Gen AI to understand consumers better, because at the heart and at the foundation, in fact, they're called foundation models, of all these user-friendly AI databases is the fact that they are parsing out and processing natural language to understand what consumers are saying unhindered, right? Now, that's only half the battle won, because if I understand you but don't know how to convert that to relate to you better, then I'm really lost. I only understand you better, but I don't relate to you. So one part of our journey was how do you use Gen AI to relate better to the consumers you want to serve? And then that goes only 3/4 of the way, because the last mile is all about using that to create game-changing innovation that serves your emerging and unmet needs. And I think what I'm really excited about is the fact that we had this 18-month journey not just to understand Gen Z by using Gen AI better, but also using Gen AI to create creative prompts for innovation and take that innovation to our consumers by working with the companies in the TATA Group. The TATA Group is a conglomerate where there are companies that serve consumers who want salt and software, steel and automobiles, apparel, any category that you can name. We work with about 18 of our companies to harness this understanding of Gen Z and then have them use Gen Z to prompt new and uncommon innovations that could then encourage them to humanize or use design thinking to create different innovations themselves. And we've seen a wonderful journey transpire that I'd love to share with the world.
Very interesting. Now, can we just touch base a little bit on the Gen Z, because it is notoriously known as the most anxious generations ever. So how can we better understand this generation that is, been called one of the most anxious generations that have ever existed?
Yeah, I think the root of that, Gabby, is really empathy, right? It's not for no reason that this generation is known as the most anxious ever. They've got climate change, they're on the brink of the next world war, there's inflation and the cost of living is going through the roof. Opportunities to earn more money are coming through non-traditional ways. AI is on the brink of threatening employment. So you put it all together and you're living through very volatile times. What we realized is the old methods, they still work, but the old methods of going and asking people how they feel are not very productive when those people are anxious and not willing to express themselves to strangers. So one compliment we found was actually doing a far more nuanced version of understanding user-generated content on the social web, but not just a sample of it, not just a little bit scraped, using machine learning to suck up all of it and pass through it using machine learning techniques to say, what are these people, what is this generation really concerned about? And if I take a word out of my corporate strategy, corporates are well known for having very, very exalted terms in their strategy: innovative, customer-centric, game-changing. If we were to take that and say, what does that mean to customers? Because this sounds okay in the boardroom, it sounds okay amongst marketers. These are not the way consumers speak about their lives and about their unmet needs. But if you use the power of machine learning and natural language processing to say, what are the near terms to that? What are the terms that ally to that? How do consumers speak about these things? You then begin to generate language in consumer speak that allows your very wanted, very exalted strategy to overlap with what customers think about a given topic, and then use those to generate the kind of prompts that will elicit funky ideas from AI that can encourage you and trigger human brainstorming to be far sharper and far more nuanced and far more impactful.
That's very interesting. I'm happy that you mentioned corporate strategy, because oftentimes it's very clearly crafted. It's very difficult for you to shift when it has been in place for many decades. Sometimes it's a tough battle to win. So in terms of corporate strategy being clearly crafted, how do you propose, or what are some insights that you have to really understand what consumers of tomorrow want and be able to shape that very rigid corporate strategy into the consumers of tomorrow, for example?
Yeah, let me take a word that brands use very, very often, right? They will say that the planet and climate change, etc. The planet needs to be more resilient. The climate change needs to be addressed, etc. Now, if you break down that term into what customers are talking about when they talk about these topics, you really get far more nuanced versions of it. For instance, a company will say that we have to be concerned about the planet Earth. There is no planet B, right? This is planet A. How consumers will often voice that is the fact that they want sustainability to be an everyday pragmatic approach, achieving sustainability. They can't do things individually or even collectively that will erase all the problems the planet has. But can they stop using single-use straws? Can they use products that are in and of themselves sustainable, so that they know that the corporates and the brands they're choosing allow them to pursue sustainability without additional effort, right? Can sustainability be about understanding the needs of the customers who don't have a voice, or citizens who don't have a voice? Now, when you start pulling these ideas out, which are different dimensions of climate change or planet resilience, you begin to realize where you should focus on as a brand to be more relatable to consumers. So you're able to translate, I think, very technical speak or very technical terms into what customers want every day through the products and services that serve them, rather than these just be left to large communications campaigns or overarching statements that don't mean much to the everyday consumer.
Okay, that's very interesting. I love your example about single-use straws, because that keeps coming back all the time as well. So let's talk about innovation. And if we look at the Gen Z, which everlasting change, the attention keeps going everywhere in different types of efforts and so on. For the generation that is living in uncertain and volatile times as well, you mentioned a lot at the beginning of the conversation. We also had the pandemic. We cannot forget that, which was very impactful, especially for this generation. How to innovate quickly to address their changing needs and to remain relevant.
Right. So this is an interesting topic, Gabby, because we see innovations coming out every day, right? We live in an age of innovation. We live in an age of disruption. Yet the darkest and dreariest statistic is that 95% of product launches fail. Now you have to wonder why, if we're innovating more and more, are we failing more and more? It simply means that either we're innovating too late or we're not innovating precisely enough. By the time I gather insight, by the time I go through a product development cycle, etc., the underlying consumers' needs have already changed. Somebody else has already served them, or their priorities have shifted, right? So one part of hastening the innovation cycle is deciding what to innovate about. So let's say you use natural language processing to understand what Gen Z wants. You then have to get into, because the machines themselves will not suggest or create those ideas. Your marketing teams, your product development teams, your R&D teams have to actually say, okay, here's what we will create. Now, if you think of the ideation process, how does it occur? Few people get in a room, everybody brings their research, everybody brings their evidence, some people bring their opinions, some people bring trends and say, hey, I think we should do this. Or they'll sit for a very long while trying to arrive at a consensus or even have a trigger for an idea. What we found is if you take all of this language around these corporate terms, translate them into understand how consumers are talking about them, you can actually engineer prompts with that consumer language to put it into an idea generation AI, and the idea generation AI will throw out zany ideas, right? It'll throw out green cryptocurrency. It'll throw out solar-powered e-bikes. It'll throw out sustainable apparel that you can recycle into different shapes. It may throw out things that aren't even possible today, but they form this stimulus to accelerate the ideation process amongst brands then, and then brands can start ideating faster and in the right direction to actually come up with things that are pragmatic yet surprising for consumers.
Okay, let's talk about uncommon ideas, because I like that approach. So while AI GPTs can throw uncommon ideas, we see that every day since it's being used more and more throughout our daily lives. How to make them a reality that can actually create market impact?
Yeah. So let me give you an example, a real live example, right? So when we parsed through natural language processing, what does Gen Z think of and what do they want when they really think of climate change and addressing climate change, right? I mean, on the one hand, they can conduct protests. On the other hand, they can put up social media and they can ask for things, or they can share messaging and create advocacy. But that only moves the needle so much. What we really discovered that they wanted was DIY, do-it-yourself sustainability, right? They wanted to relate to each other and brands on the terms that they wanted as far as what are their concerns. You know, while corporates may be bothered about emissions, very often consumers will be bothered about waste recycling. Right. So think of one of our companies. One of our companies is the largest and earliest players in the e-grocery delivery space. It's a company called Big Basket. It is one of the leading players in India when it comes to e-grocery delivery. So what Big Basket did is they took this and they said, how do we relate to Gen Z if this is the insight? They started sending out messages about when people are ordering on their app, this is how they are saving plastic by using sustainable packaging. This is how consumers can behave by saving water. So just by that messaging and reutilizing information that their app was generating, they were able to relate better to Gen Z. They were able to make Gen Z more conscious of what they could do to solve climate change and improve planet resilience. And by doing so, make them participate and choose their service rather than any service, because that consumer wanted this need fulfilled, which was how do I, through the brands I currently use, still continue to protect our planet. So that's a simple idea with a zany Gen AI, sustainable crypto idea, make sustainability about every day, translate it into something pragmatic within the environment and the interaction of that brand with their consumer.
Very interesting. You touched base on DIY, and I think that we see that trend growing more and more, not only with how to become more sustainable, but also home improvements, eating.
That's right.
That these younger generations, they're looking into how to create their own food instead of buying it out. So DIY
Exactly.
is huge at the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is great, to be honest. It's
absolutely. I think I don't think Gen Z gets enough credit for being not just bothered about issues that confront the world today, but also very conscientious about it. So to my mind, with no disrespect to prior generations, I think prior generations paid a lot of lip service to these things. Gen Z is very serious about it, and we're seeing that in the brand choices they actively make.
This is very interesting. You've mentioned and you've touched upon natural language processing quite a bit. So I want to talk about the mixture of machine learning, natural language processing, and design thinking. How can this mix create game-changing innovation that can, of course, lead to success?
Oh, I think the coming together of these elements is such a magical concoction, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not that we haven't had natural language processing before, right? If you remember the early days of social media, every social media marketing firm would come and promise you that they would do sentiment analysis. They would tell you by parsing all the words that people were using on the social web, whether the sentiment was positive, negative, neutral, right? So we had that in one bucket. Then, of course, from social media and from natural language processing, you had machine learning come and tell you, look, when you've got large unstructured data sets, it's too onerous for any human being to find patterns in it. You know what the algorithm or set of algorithms and techniques will do is that they will tirelessly work on an unstructured data set and try to find patterns for you. So that was the second bucket. And of course, the third bucket was design thinking, where people said, if you've got to create the famous IDEO example, right? If you've got to create a completely different shopping cart, here's how you can have a multidisciplinary approach, have people from different backgrounds use consumer insight and observation, create a prototype, and quickly test it in market. Now, if you look at these three separate buckets, they don't intuitively talk to each other. They've been seen as discrete and separate activities. But if you mash it all together and you say, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take natural language processing to understand what consumers are saying about the terms that I use to describe myself as a corporate. If I am pioneering, if I am invested in enhancing the quality of lives of the communities I serve, if I take it upon myself to engender and create and enhance trust, what might that mean to customers? What are consumers saying about this? And I find themes in it, I find narratives. I take that language then out of that semantic understanding bucket and I put it into a machine learning engine. And I say, here's what consumers want. If I were to make a product or service that would meet these needs, what could it be? And the machine throws out something completely zany like the examples I said. Now I have to take those zany examples and put it into the last bucket, which is, as human beings, as Gabby, Adrian, and our colleagues sitting around a table, this is indicative or symptomatic of what a customer wants, right? How might this relate to my category? How might I translate it into something relevant within these boundaries within my category? And I put it all together, and I have a very, very potent combination of techniques to bring together and make it relevant to consumers. That's what produces game-changing innovation. Game-changing innovation isn't the next iPhone. Game-changing, in fact, even if you look at the iPhone, Gabby, the iPhone combined three things that already existed, right? I've stumbled upon a perfect example. Game-changing innovation is about meeting an unmet need previously in a new way.
Okay.
Right? And I think that's where all of these techniques come together to make the activity, make the initiative, make the endeavor far more fruitful, but also far more accelerated.
That's so interesting. I think that right now you just gave very short but yet very effective marketing lessons to the modern marketeer, as myself, of course, as well. But it's a very interesting way of looking at things and how to innovate and also how to keep in line with the current and younger generations, because to be honest, they're very active as consumers. They think differently, and I think that you have made a very interesting way of analyzing and assessing that need. So congratulations on this. This is very interesting. Of course, this is just a tip of the iceberg.
It is indeed.
Adrian's going to be there on the 16th, on the 17th of June, actually. You're going to be presenting on Monday this whole presentation. So this is just a tip of the iceberg. I really do thank you for taking the time to speak with me.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gabby, for speaking to me. And like Gen Z would say, we're looking forward to spilling the tea on June 17th on Monday, right?
Exactly. So please be there with us. This is just one of the many amazing client sessions that we have in store for you. I really do hope to see you from the 16th to the 18th of June for our Art and Innovation event in Chicago. Thank you very much, Adrian.
Thank you, Gabby. Looking forward to it and looking forward to meeting everyone there. What a lovely time we'll have. Thank you so much, Adrian, for being with us. I'm really looking forward to watching the whole of your session in our upcoming event in Chicago. It's really exciting event. For those of you who still haven't been able to purchase your passes, the standard rate goes up next week, so please make sure to grab yours. Again, it's going to happen in Chicago from the 16th until the 18th of June. If you're a client or a brand, you can also, and you're very much welcome to join us at the Client Summit happening on the 14th of June. And if you're attending both events, you do get to leverage on a 50% off discount to access our Client Summit as well. Thank you very much.